an entire family, including the children, slashed and stabbed to death. And the suspect says he took their lives because he was unhappy with his own.
On the evening of October 26, 2013, mother of four Zhou Family called her mother-in-law after her calls to her husband went unanswered. She was calling to tell her that her husband's cousin, who was staying with the family, was acting strange. A short time later, relatives would arrive to the house to check on things, but they would be too late. The door would be answered by a monster dripping in blood. Zhou Family and her husband emigrated to the United States from China in hopes of better opportunities. They started a family in the working-class neighborhood of Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Home to a large Chinese community, is often referred to as the Chinatown of Brooklyn. By October 2013, they had 4 children, all born in New York. 9-year-old Linda, 7-year-old Amy, 5-year-old Kevin, and 1-year-old William. They were a typical family. Yi Lin worked hard as a restaurant cook in Long Island. Xiao Jin had taken some time off work to be a homemaker and take care of the children. They were known to put family first, but sadly, that would be their doom. They had a large family with many relatives living nearby, so when Yi Lin's 25-year-old cousin, Mingdong Chen, needed a place to stay, they offered to help. He had stayed with the family in the past with no issues, so they were happy to help him until he found a place. They could never have imagined what their act of kindness would bring. Mingdong Chen was smuggled into the United States in 2004 when he was 16 years old. Immediately upon arrival to the U.S., he was indebted to the Chinese snakehead gang that smuggled him in. He bounced back and forth between Chicago and New York City, working in Chinese restaurants. When he was in New York, he was known to frequent illegal gambling parlors, where he was often seen pounding on the electronic machines when he lost. The money he didn't spend gambling, he spent on drugs. Family members were disappointed in his choices, but saw him as a young man finding his way. When Mingdong Chen's petition for asylum was formally rejected in June of 2013 and he was up for deportation, he chose an unconventional way to U.S. citizenship. It would be costly and risky, and ultimately he would get scammed. He fell for a popular scam in which a woman who was already a citizen agrees to marry him. In exchange, he would pay her $70,000. Unfortunately for him, she ran off with the money. This filled him with such anger, he even told a friend that he wanted to find and kill the woman. He was in a rage-fueled depression at the time he came to stay with his cousin's family. And the family had changed since his last stay. They now had 4 kids, including a 1-year-old baby, so the home was not quiet. The children were known as very playful in the community, and this was true in the home as well. Mingdong would complain that it was too loud and that the children asked too much of him. Yi Lin and his wife, Xiao Zhen, were already being overly kind by letting him stay with them, as their home only had 3 bedrooms. And with his many complaints, they found a place for him in the Queens neighborhood of Flushing. It has a huge Chinese community as well, so for Mingdong, it would be just as easy for him to find work there since he didn't speak English. However, Mingdong was ungrateful for everything. He claimed he couldn't sleep there either because it was too loud. He complained the room that they found for him was too close to a known mahjong spot and it was noisy. He was furious that Yi Lin would even suggest he stay there. 2 days later, he was still boiling with rage that he would go on to commit a crime of passion, that law enforcement would say they had never seen anything like the horrors they saw that October night. It was the Saturday before Halloween. Yi Lin was working all day. Xiao Zhen went to the supermarket and then stayed home the rest of the day with the kids. By now, Mingdong had been staying with the family for about a week, and while Xiao Zhen and Mingdong never had problems with each other, things were undeniably tense, as it was clear him living with their energetic young family just wasn't a good fit. Xiao Zhen noticed his behavior was off that day. She tried calling her husband a few times, but he was working at a busy restaurant on a Saturday night, and he couldn't answer. She called her mother-in-law, who lived in China, seeking advice on what to do. This would be the last phone call Xiao Zhen would make. While on the phone with her mother-in-law, Mingdong began arguing with the children. He then hit one of them. At that moment, Xiao Zhen had enough. She screamed at him for hitting her child. Her act of defending her kids would cost her her life. Mingdong snapped and grabbed a meat cleaver and cornered Zhao Zhen in the kitchen. Her last words the mother-in-law heard was, quote, "He's coming with the knife." Mingdong savagely butchered Zhao Zhen and her 5-year-old son Kevin in the kitchen before he continued his massacre into the back room where the girls were with baby William. After ruthlessly stabbing 9-year-old Linda and 7-year-old Amy, he tried to suffocate William. He told police, quote, "I first tried to suffocate him with a blanket, but that didn't work, so I chopped him too." Yilin's mother, who was on the phone with Zhao Zhen, immediately called her daughter, who lived nearby, when she heard Zhao Zhen's last words. They raced over to the apartment, and when they knocked at the door, to their horror, it was answered by Mingdong, who was dripping in blood and still holding the 1-foot-long meat cleaver in his hand. Terrified, they ran from the home and called 911. Moments later, police arrived, and when they confronted Mingdong, he was arrested without incident and without emotion. His first words to police were, quote, "I know I am done." He was taken to the police station, still covered in blood. While there, he assaulted a police interpreter, punching him. He also attempted to kick an officer with his blood-stained foot. His defense attorney would argue that he was repeatedly hit in the head by police while in custody. However, officers stated they were clearly defending themselves after being attacked by the madman. Yilin would be seen arriving home surrounded by family. Neighbors reported hearing his screams as he faced the horror that took place in his once happy home. His 2 daughters, Linda and Amy, along with baby William, were declared dead at the scene. However, Zhao Zhen and 5-year-old Kevin were still clinging to life when police arrived. They were rushed to a nearby hospital, where they died shortly after arrival. Mingdong Chen has never given a reason for his murderous rampage, only telling investigators of his own misfortunes. He was mad and jealous. His cousin Yilin had everything he didn't: 4 beautiful children and a loving wife. They worked hard and had money. He would say he had no job, no wife, no kids, and when asked why he did it, he would give a chilling response.
He made a very soft comment that since he's been in this country, everyone seems to be doing better than him.
A friend recalled bumping into him on the street the day before the murders. He said Mingdong was agitated and had no money. Neighbors recalled seeing him standing outside the home smoking cigarettes, talking on the phone. They had no idea the person they saw was a selfish, lazy monster that would commit unspeakable acts. He was charged with 5 counts of murder, and although he was diagnosed with an unreleased mental illness and found unfit for trial, he was later found by the judge to be, quote, "clear, lucid, competent." To spare the family from reliving the nightmare, he was charged with 3 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts first-degree, which he coldly and callously admitted to. On the day of his sentencing, the family was present in the courtroom. The kid's grandmother, Yilin's mom, came from China to be with him to the courtroom with other family members. When Mingdong entered the court, she screamed and cried, "How could you do that?" She would be so overcome with emotion, she collapsed in the courtroom and had to be taken by ambulance. The kid's other grandmother, the mother of Zhao Zhen, would need medical treatment as she too collapsed by the courthouse elevators. Yilin sat in the courtroom surrounded by his family. When given a chance, he looked stone-faced at his killer cousin Mingdong, asking him, "Why did you kill her?" Mingdong would never answer or show any emotion. The grief-stricken family were even overheard asking prosecutors, "Why did he do it? Why?" All they could say is that Mingdong was bitter and jealous of their life. He would be sentenced to 25 years for each murder, totaling 125 years. The mother and her children would get justice, but it hardly made a difference to the family as they had already lost everything. After burying his wife and children, one of whom, William, who was too small for his own casket and was buried with his mom, Yilin was asked if he had anything to say. The father, who had lost everything, simply said, "What can I say?" Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.